go ahead and call to order today's meeting of the Monroe County Election Board, today being September 5th. So let's see, we've got a pretty straightforward agenda today, more reporting than action items. So why don't we jump right in. Do we have minutes to approve?
We have minutes. You should have been provided with minutes. I have no additions, corrections, or deletions with respect to the minutes. And thank you, Ms. Ashley.
I never saw the minutes.
I don't recall seeing them.
We didn't get them sent to us.
Should we table that until next month and approve 2 months?
Yes, that would be good.
I will make a motion to table the approval of minutes until the October 2024 meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. Okay, great. So the next item on the agenda is a clerk's update.
Thank you. So we've had a couple of exciting things that have happened, and then we can talk about a little money. I orchestrated a roundtable discussion at Election Central last month, and what I did was to invite anybody who was interested to come to Election Central. We had representatives from CISA, from the Secretary of State's office, from the Cybersecurity Department at IU, all of the candidates who are running for commissioner, and a video from the Secretary of State was presented, as was some literature and discussion about cybersecurity with Q&A period. I thought it went well. Lots of people left saying they didn't really understand how much we do as far as the bipartisan effort to make sure that things are secure. And so it was a wonderful and exciting opportunity. And I appreciate Ms. Kylie in particular, who helped to orchestrate it and set the room up and everything. And we got nothing but positive feedback from that. I'm also very excited to announce, we didn't really advertise it, but we had Girl Scouts at Election Central last night. What a wonderfully exciting opportunity. They had reached out to us for the chance to teach Girl Scouts about the election process. It had been several years since the Girl Scouts had come. And, you know, they range in age. I would say the youngest one there was probably 7 or 8. The oldest one may have been 12 or 13, but so very sweet. Ms. Kylie had gift bags for them. We had stickers. They had the slapstick bracelets that the young people like. And so what was really nice was our IT person, Bob White, came out, and we kind of did a mock election for them where they could vote for president, and their options were George Washington, Darth Vader, Ansel Adams, is that right? Some people who are not really running for office at this time. And I'll tell you the one that touched my heart. A little girl was so shy at the beginning before we got started, and by the end she gave Miss Ashley a hug, she gave Miss Kylie a hug, and she gave me a hug. And so it was a really wonderful opportunity, and they actually asked for another session because apparently the sign-up sheet filled up pretty quickly, and it was absolutely delightful. So those are the two really happy things. The budget hearings are this evening for the clerk's office. I'm sure the public is aware that the county council is meeting several evenings a week regarding budget requests from different departments. And so I will be going, as I understand it. My counterparts will not be able to attend. I will be attending this evening. And so I wanted to give you a summary of the election budget. You may or may not realize that the election budget is one where we try to keep the cost fairly even, because otherwise the presidential would be this huge ask and the municipal would be this very small ask. And so it's hard for the council to know, why are you asking for so much money this year as opposed to last year or something like that. So my predecessor worked with the council to create a fund that they put money into every year. We may or may not request the amount of money that's in there. The good news is that any money that is not expended rolls over to the next year. So you have been provided with a copy of the budget. You'll note that the presidential year that we're in, I would have asked for significantly more money than I am this year. I'm requesting less for 2025, but I want to be clear. That does not mean that election things do not go on in the off year. As you might imagine, with an election nationwide, particularly the possibly historical one we could have this year, everybody's ordering supplies, everybody needs things, and so our vendors get depleted with what they have available to people who oversee elections. So we spend that year replenishing all of our supplies, replacing equipment that is not in working order or has broken down. We do our voter list maintenance and make sure that everybody is registered to vote who's supposed to be here, pull out the ones that can be canceled, things like that. And so I am next to last on the list tonight, so it's going to be a long night, but my team and I will be there to make our election pitch, and I would be most appreciative of your support, and I am happy to address any questions or concerns that you might have regarding the ask.
Nicole, one thing that I would add is that with it being a non-election year, we could very well have the possibility of a special election from a school board, which right now we have received letters from RBB about them talking about a referendum. If they were to decide that they wanted to do it next year, they very well could. They would be paying for everything in return. But we do have to think about the possibility of that, or them holding off until 26.
Thank you for reminding me, because that is something that I meant to mention. Legislatively, all of the Clerks Association has asked for no special elections, that you hold an election in a year where we're already holding one, and our lobbyists supported that effort. However, the school corporations have their own lobbyists, and so we did not see eye to eye following this legislative session, and so they did win, so to speak. Ms. Kiley is right and correct in that I have not asked for appropriations. You'll see where we would normally have salaries for judges and clerks and sheriffs and things like that. You'll see that those lines are at zero. If we should be compelled to have a special election, I will have to go to the council and ask for appropriations. We can be reimbursed for most of it. They will have to pay, but I would have to ask. And so thank you again for reminding me of that.
Yeah, and with that, when we went to the IVRA conference in July, there are a couple of clerks and election officials that have said that they are already confirmed for having elections in 25. So it's not anything that we should be surprised about if it happens, but it's also something that we're not anticipating at this time.
I do not.
I've got a couple of questions. One is on the, like the voting machine repair, maintenance. Does that include acquisition, or is that a different line?
So no, that doesn't have to do with acquisition. In the off year is when we would do preventative maintenance. So we haven't had these machines very long, but they obviously have had some wear and tear on them. And so our vendor can come in and help us go from machine to machine to do preventative maintenance. We also want to make sure that our batteries, if we need, we replace about a third of all of the batteries we use every year, and then let the other two
Roll it
go.
over every
So
3
we're
years.
checking the life of the batteries, replacing the ones that are gone and, shot. And so that is, we do, again, there are things that go on with elections even in the off year.
Then maybe it's premature to even bring this up, but my assumption is that at the completion of the Vote Center Study Committee's work, there'll probably be a recommendation regarding vote centers. I assume there's going to be some startup costs related to implementation, assuming we did it, so I know that you can't really budget for something that hasn't been fully developed, but
Correct. And you would be right in your presumption. There would be some startup costs. My hope in working with our vendor is that they would be minimal, in that we already have equipment, and we try to ask for what we asked for when we got the initial election equipment, with the hope that we would go to vote centers. So it should be an easy transition. That doesn't necessarily mean an inexpensive transition, and I wouldn't know until or unless we had to reach out to the vendor to get those costs and quotes. Is that fair?
yeah. And then I guess we could always come back if we had to the council to see if there's an opportunity to, front load and kind of spread out those costs over multiple budgets and not just
Well-
take a single year hit.
And again, that's why when we ask for what we ask for, whatever we don't spend goes back. It doesn't go back to the general council or the general fund like other budgets do. It goes back into the election fund, and it can be used for election expenses. We still would likely have to ask, and I would hope that should we be recommended to go to vote centers, that I would have your support with the council at that time.
And then on the document you gave us, on page 2, if I'm reading this right, the request for election board is $173,000.
I'm sorry. Which line? Yes, the totals.
And then are these other lines below it, are those related to the office in general?
If you look at the first page, the salaries.
Yeah, I got that.
The second, the 20s are supplies.
Yeah.
The 30s are the contractual. You add all of those together and you get the bottom number.
Okay, so the total ask is 366,
Correct.
311.
Correct.
Okay. This fund balance concept, what is in the,
I'm sorry, let me see where you're looking.
well, you said that if unexpended dollars
Yes,
don't revert
so-
to the general fund, they go into an election fund?
So my predecessor started this with the council. So let's just say a presidential was $2 million, and let's say a municipal was $850,000, and then in the off year you wouldn't have it would just go up and down and up and down. And so
No,
instead of
I get that, but what's the balance?
I don't know.
Okay.
They the council and the commissioners put money into the election fund. We ask for money based on the election or non-election that we're having. Any money that we don't spend from what I've requested reverts back to the election fund. It doesn't go back to council, which makes it easier when it's time.
Well, maybe as a follow, we could it's my own, part of it's my own curiosity, but also just in terms of messaging, are we building up a big enough reserve that maybe that's where any of those startup costs could be pulled from, or are we anticipating some kind of supplemental request?
So the very nice thing for me is that I just have to get the dollar amount, and then I certainly am happy to work with the commissioners and the council, but they do have to provide the money.
I get that, but what I'm saying, Nicole, is that, we're looking at a budget, and the premise, which I totally agree with, is that there are costs that can be spread over, multiple budget cycles. Balancing out, if you look at the life cycle of equipment, you're going to have to replace X amount of machines every year, baking that into the budget, et cetera. But if there's some startup costs related to vote centers, I'm just curious to what the balance is in the election fund to see if that's potentially going to be enough to cover those startup costs.
Mr. Fernandez, I've requested council office to send me the current balance of the election fund, and I should have it in a few seconds.
Okay, cool.
I did, what's the contractual amount here? It says 130,000. What is that?
So we work with a number of vendors. Our election knowing for our electronic poll books. We have several election vendors that we work with, software and licensing, things like that. And so their costs we incur even in the off year. So it, as you alluded to earlier, it is spread out over year.
But I think your question is, so are those for multiple vendors or?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
There's one line for contractual, is not delineated by vendor.
Questions?
No, I don't think so.
You can open it up to any public comment. Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak to the proposed election board budget? If not, we can go online. See if anybody online has any questions.
And because of where it's positioned today, I don't see any hands.
Okay.
I'm happy to try to move it closer, but I don't want to step on our IT people. But from this vantage, I don't see any questions.
So I don't, we don't really need an action item on this, do we?
What would you like for me to say to the council when they ask, is your election board supportive of your budget request?
I'm supportive.
I'm generally supportive of the budget. I have no problem doing that. It just feels like there's not, it's hard to, it's the first time, I've seen the numbers today, so I think they look very reasonable. My biggest fear, Nicole, is that it's not robust enough to be able to get a jump start on what's next, but we can't really do that now until we really have a recommendation.
Until we
and
have
the
a
board has to
recommendation.
approve it.
And the truth of the matter is that they have to, they can't not give us the money. And I believe that both the council and the commissioners are supportive of going to vote centers. I've not heard opposition. We can't do anything until we get the recommendation. So, the fairest thing to say is we will get the money, but I wouldn't even know what to do now because I don't have a recommendation, a quote, or anything. And until we get that, the money will be there. That's all I can say.
Mr. Fernandez, I do have the cash balance. As of today, the current cash balance is $1,466,929.84.
Start. Okay. I'm comfortable with this budget.
Thank you.
Again, my only caveat is I worry about it not being enough, but that's a different issue.
I certainly can commit to we will all hear the recommendation at the same time.
Yeah.
So I certainly can commit to immediately jumping on, working with the vendors to get the quotes to present to the board for if we should get the recommendation to go to vote centers. Is that fair? Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is the election central update.
All right, so the first thing on that is the National Voter Registration Day events. So currently I am working with PACE on IU's campus as well as the Indiana University Center on Representative Governments. We are all working together of having a event on September 17th from 11 to 2, and that will be to register students that are on campus to vote in this election this year. We're planning on doing a pretty big event with the three of us all together, and we're looking forward to that. But also, right now, I am working with a couple of ladies in my office to see if they would like to also hold an event in the office for the whole day and be available for if people walk in and see our flyers that they can come in and register right then and there. And I'm working with the Secretary of State's office on getting some iPads down to make that process a little bit easier for them and for our office together. Do you guys have any questions on that?
I don't have a question specifically on voter registration day events, but I am curious to just get your take on what's been the trend line on new registrations.
So the registrations that have been coming in have actually increased within the last week. When we came back from the 3-day weekend with Labor Day weekend, I believe in our hopper we had a little under 300 that had came in from just that weekend. So it was approximately 100 a day that were coming in. And then when we have FSSAs coming in and dropping off their registrations from in their office,
SSA?
So that'll be like your food stamps office, any of those, like the assistant offices. Also WIC drops off, and then we get some from the BMV as well. But from those two offices that they drop off personally in our office, we've been seeing that they drop off weekly, and they have anywhere from 200 to 500 applications that they're dropping off. So we're having a pretty big increase, and we've had to have some extra help with getting those all completed, as well as our back office starting on their applications for ABS by mail. They've had a pretty big pickup on that as well. But
that's pretty common
it's
with
just
presidential years.
Yeah. So it's just we've started to see a pretty big increase coming in, and we're just anticipating it to be even larger after the September 17th mark, because of it being National Voter Registration Day, and not just here in Bloomington, but everybody everywhere will be registering. And if they're even in Indianapolis and they're planning on being here in town and they have a residence here in town, they could register at any location on that day to register for the county that they live in.
So what's the last date of registration?
That would be October 7th, the day before early voting begins. And then the only other thing for National Voter Registration Day is at the end of that day, at 6 p.m., we plan to have a public discussion for vote centers for the students to come in and put in their input on that day as well. That will be announced to the vote center committee, as well as some of them are here today, that has been confirmed for that same day. And then the next thing on my list is the survey for review. The binder that I dropped off up there is the complete surveys of everybody that returned one from primary election day. Those will be for you guys to decide who wants to take it today. Just let me know who has it, and then you guys can switch. And then that way we can get it back in the office and store it with all the other surveys that we've gotten over the years.
Is there a summary data tab of all this stuff, or?
Okay, Ashley said that she can create a summary for you guys, and then we can get that added to that for you guys. And then the only other thing which I had to pencil in for today is a review of an ABS mail application that we received. This application came in, I believe it was one from today, if not yesterday. The signature does not match what we have in history, but there is also an email attached to that packet for you guys. We have not heard anything back from them. We have not received a phone call back from them. My back office, as well as I, after reviewing, do agree that it is not a match, but wanted the election board to make the final call on that, since it is a ABS by mail.
So what I explained to Ms. Kylie earlier in previous incarnations of the election board, we've been pretty liberal. We certainly acknowledge that we are not handwriting experts, but we've been pretty liberal in acknowledging that as people age, your handwriting changes. If your dominant hand is injured or something, you might not write the same. So we look for things that are similar but not exact. And so, for example, this first letter of this voter's name is not written like this letter. We know we know that spouses can sign for one another and do things do happen like that, but when it is this obvious is not the word I want to use, but when it is as you see it here, it does raise a couple eyebrows.
Yeah, and you did, if I heard you right, you've reached out on 2 different occasions.
Yes, so they both called them, and they also reached out to them by email. We have not heard anything back from this individual at all. With a ballot that we get back that the signatures do not match, it automatically generates a letter that we can send to them that says, if you sign this saying that it is your signature, then we can approve it, then it goes to you guys for approval on provisional ballot hearing day. The only situation with this is we don't have that letter that generates for an application. And generally, this doesn't happen for the applications. So this is the first that I've seen of this happening. So for us, we just feel more comfortable that the election board makes the final decision on if we are going to mark it as signature does not match or if we are going to accept it.
I mean, were the calls, like, did you leave voicemails or?
Yes, voicemails are left with each individual when we do call, and we've not had a call back from the individual.
Pleasure.
May I look at the address?
It's, 1301 South Lincoln, I think.
If it is local, I am willing to try to reach out to the voter to see if, to let them know the board's decision and see what we can do to rectify this, or at least offer the board an explanation for why the signatures do not appear to match.
Because they do have some more time to try to fix it.
Yes,
Yes.
they have
So-
time to try to fix it, and the times that I've gone in the past directly to a voter's residence has been as we got close to that date where, we have to have it in to turn it around by mail. But in this instance, if this is the only one I have, rather not do it today. I'm a little busy today, but I'd be happy to try to middle of next week after my conference to reach out to this voter and see if we can get someone.
Okay, that makes me feel more comfortable. I mean, I hate to kind of strike someone from the registration rolls and have them show up and not be able to vote. But I also don't see those signatures being I could see why you would recommend not accepting it. There
So-
could be a great explanation, but they need
Yes.
to communicate.
Correct. And so since we've reached out twice, which was incredibly generous, I'd be happy to go for the 3rd time, so that'd be 3 times we've made an effort. And if we don't have anything to have Kylie convey to the board what was discovered when I went.
So do we need to take an action we don't need to take an action until you do that?
I'm happy to make a motion of acknowledgement that the signatures do not appear to match.
I would second that.
I'm good with that. Any public comment? Or if not, let's, I guess we need a motion to approve a decision to deny this application and for making the outreach.
I will make the motion to deny this application based upon the signatures not matching.
Second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, next is the update from the Vote Center Study Committee.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Light is on. Just sit over here. I have a few updates for you all, and I know I saw on the agenda that you wanted information about the meeting scheduled for September 11th at Unionville Elementary. I know most or all of you attended a previous similar session in Ellettsville, so this will take shape in a similar way. Unionville Elementary, 6 p.m. I'm looking at Kylie to make sure I said that correctly, and we hope that it's a robust discussion like the last event was. Actually, we hope even for more participation, and I think that that would give election board members and others a good sense of the kinds of questions that come in through such sessions, where from our committee's end, we don't share all that much overwhelming information and detail to tee up these discussions and provide a few basic descriptions of what a vote center model is, and then open it up for community input and questions and discussion. So we hope that that will be fruitful again, and that or other upcoming events that are especially meant to gain public input would give you a good sense of where we're at with collecting community input thus far. Kylie also graciously mentioned another upcoming opportunity for a related session, which would be on National Voter Registration Day at IU, and thank you for confirming that. So not to be confused with the more registration-focused efforts during the day, but Kylie, do you happen to know the time and location of the Vote Center discussion-focused event at IU?
So that will be the same day as the National Voter Registration Day, but it will be in the evening at 6 p.m., and it's the same location that we're holding the event that day. It will be at the Indiana University Center of Representative Governments.
Thank you. I did want to relay to the election board that there have been, in the Vote Center Study Committee meetings, on a number of occasions by multiple committee members, they've discussed past experiences where IU has said no, essentially, to hosting a polling place, for example, including known accessible places. And so I for one, am interested in what happens on the 17th and what kind of input people from the IU community give about what their needs are. We did have a previous session where we did have some IU student representatives and others attend, and that was very eye-opening. For example, people explaining when they needed more access from the point of view of a student or an IU community member. I think IU will want to respond with clarity to what the election board and students and staff and faculty are asking. It hasn't been a together conversation yet. It's been disparate, disconnected conversations of Vote Center Study Committee members saying, this was where I hit a roadblock with IU, and then no response. So I hope, given that we will be at IU on the 17th, I hope we can have a clearer conversation about that.
Absolutely. One thing I want to relay to the Vote Center Committee, if you don't mind, and this would not have been the board that it happened in front of, but several years back, because we've used the IMU polling site for several election cycles now, the college Republicans and the college Democrats came to the election board requesting a more centralized polling site. At the time, we had the football stadium, so we had something to the north, and I believe we had a dormitory or two, so they made a bipartisan position for having a polling site centrally located at the university. And so, in fact, Miss Kylie, please help me. The place that we would be having the public discussion on the 17th is where a proposed IU site has, they're offering that site as a possible university location. I also want to make clear, we've had buildings at the university where they offered as a site, and then when we sent Bob, Kylie, different people. There were limitations that don't meet what we need. Not enough parking spaces, how far it is away from the door. There are lots of things that we have to factor in when considering a place for a polling site. And my understanding is there's even been people who have concerns about IMU, as big as it is, that it still creates barriers. And so many things that we have to factor in, and I concur with you, that'd be a wonderful time to get feedback about the polling sites. But we do try. We are not trying to disenfranchise our university voters, which is why we have the concerted effort to go there, and we're open and receptive to any discussions. I hope I made that make sense. Absolutely.
Really helpful, and in the study committee's meetings, it's been clear and consistent that the group is interested in looking at multiple centralized locations. I believe in some era in the past, there was supposedly some discussion about let's have one vote center only and have it at IU, and that was controversial. No one is discussing anything like that these days, so hopefully we're all on the same page about that as well, that we're talking about the possibility of recommending multiple centralized locations, multiple vote center locations, if the committee were even to recommend a vote center model, which I guess brings me to my next point, to let you know about the drafting of the recommendation. So the committee is still planning to go per the timeline that the election board requested of having the report and recommendations done by the end of this year or a little bit before that. And at our September 25th committee meeting, we plan ahead of that committee date to have more of an involved draft going of the analysis that our committee has discussed thus far, and some of the outstanding pieces of information that we're waiting for, which is why this has to happen in at least a few weeks and not today. We're waiting for, I believe from the data, but I believe from the county, but correct me if I'm wrong, a data visualization of some of the categories of data we had discussed needing more of an explanation and visualization on, such as distribution of eligible voters, of active voters, turnout in recent relevant elections. We've been discussing
Are you
it.
talking about like the hotspot map?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I actually just sent an email about that this morning to the surveyor's office after we had a meeting there this morning. And I'm working with them on getting that created. I just got to pull all of the data from our history to get that created for you guys.
Thank you so much. I know it's not for a lack of trying by the clerk's office that we don't have this yet, but we, as the committee, need to see that. And also, if you all as the election board have any asks for us, again, I'm not the chair of the study committee, but I'm here as a representative of the committee, and if I need to relay anything, or you all, of course, can do so directly to the chair, but if I can assist, I think if we had some more specifics of what's asked for us in terms of if you want to see the draft, if anything else like that, then I hope we can be more productive and helpful.
I can only speak for myself. I have tried to keep my ask of the Vote Center Committee to a minimum. I want this to be your report without undue influence, at least from me. And so that's why I haven't asked when I was invited to come. I certainly did. And then when we began having the public discussions, we advertised that the board could be there. And I was in Ellettsville, and I plan to be at all of them when I am in town and not at a conference. So that's just me as far as asked. So I wanted to be your thoughts, your report, your recommendation based on the expertise you've been given from the different people you've spoken with.
Good. Remind me, what time is the Unionville Elementary program? 6 o'clock?
They do a great job of keeping it to an hour.
I did take back the election board's suggestion about meeting people where they are and where they're civically engaged, including city and county meetings. So I believe that requests have been made for us to reserve some time at city and county meetings post-November 5th as to not confuse voters, but we will keep you informed on those and would appreciate your either involvement or I respect what you're saying, Clerk Brown, about being deliberate about how to be involved, but we appreciate your support in at least making those discussion opportunities happen.
I plan to be there in Unionville, so.
Okay, so since we're on that topic, can I actually get maybe like a heads up of who's going to be at each of these meetings? So if I need to create a public notice for attendance of the election board.
Why
Or
don't we
you
just go
guys-
ahead and send out a
Just go
public
ahead for
notice,
both of
and
them.
if they don't attend,
Sounds good.
no harm, no foul?
Oh, okay, good. Good, good.
Anything else?
No,
Great, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any public comments regarding the vote center update? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item, which is under new business, we need to approve the early voting workers. And we have received a list of names from both the Monroe County Democratic Party and the Monroe County Republican Party. Any comments, questions?
I did prepare a resolution for this. It's very similar, or actually, it's identical to the one that was done in the primary that says, it cites the statute that states the election board must appoint these individuals. It indicates that a request was sent to the county chairman on September 3rd and that we received Exhibit A and B, which is the list on the 5th. And so then it hereby approves the individuals listed on each of the, within each of the exhibits.
Comments or questions from the board?
I have none, and unless my colleague has some, I will make a motion that we accept both parties' letters of recommendation for the people who they have named to serve as workers for the election.
So really, you're making a motion to approve the resolution approving that.
Okay? I am making a motion to approve the resolution that was created to accept the bipartisan list of workers for the election as named in the letters.
Second.
Okay, I do make one comment. I just really appreciate all the people on these lists for the work they're doing. As we've said many times, we have a pretty efficient and safe process for ensuring that people who are eligible to vote and want to vote have an opportunity to do so. And it only works because we have all these volunteers who on a bipartisan basis are willing to dedicate a lot of time to ensuring that we have an operating democracy. So I really appreciate all the folks on both of these lists for their contribution to our system.
I join you in gratitude.
As do I.
So with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. And that is the end of our formal agenda.
Mr. Fernandez,
Do we have to?
Mr. Fernandez, I do have a quick update before we go to the public comment. At the last election board, the board asked that Kylie and I work on a couple of policies, and I just wanted to provide a quick update. Kylie and I met yesterday, and we have a pretty good idea of we'll have a pretty good draft of a policy for the release of the computerized voter registration information. I did send a couple emails to the public access counselor because I just want to verify some the information that we could redact if we were to elect to redact. And so I'm waiting to hear back from him. We also started working on the emergency plan policy in the sense that we've identified a couple of sources of information we would like to reach out to. So Kylie is reaching out to counties that are still poll centers or polling places and seeing if we can get emergency plans. I know they're also reaching out to the Secretary of State, so we've already scheduled a second meeting on that. we talked about the social media policy, and so we'll have a draft of that for the next meeting. Is that it? And then I guess the fourth policy we were considering or working on was the CF4 policy, and I don't really know where the board stands on that. I know that you're going to have to consider CF4 late filings this year. Is the idea that you want a policy in place before the consideration? Because
That's kind of on me, I think, to get together with the two county chairs to
Okay.
get their input, so I will act on that.
All right.
At court. Okay, this is part of the agenda where we allow public comment on issues otherwise not on the agenda. It looks like we have one taker.
My name is Cheryl Langdon. I have here the latest update from Switzerland and Clinton County's election news. They, both counties received over $40,000 of grant money. On the morning of October 30th, 2023, I was being held hostage and bullied in the break room at the Napa Building voting location for absolutely no reason. The reason why that date's really important to me, other than being traumatized that day, was that was the deadline for Monroe County to get in my proposal to get money to Monroe County, election money, grant money. These counties got it done. Today, I shouldn't be here having to talk about this, about what happened to me that day that shouldn't have happened. I should be standing with other people that represents Monroe County holding a big giant check for money to be received by Monroe County because we got the grant done. But instead, that didn't happen because I end up spending the month of September, August, and October dealing with unnecessary behavior. On the morning of October 30th, I was held hostage at the Napa Building where early voting is being held. And it was a meeting that was called by Tammy White, and I didn't want to do it. I said I wanted HR present at this meeting. I felt like I was being bullied. It was a meeting where Nicole was at, Ryan Herndon, Kylie Moreland, and Tammy White. And I had just suffered medical issues, severe medical issues, had to go to the hospital the weekend before. I kept protesting about this meeting. I contacted HR before I went into this meeting and requested that someone be present to represent me because I felt like I was being bullied, felt like I was being held hostage. A 6-foot-plus tall man was blocking the door, and it was at the voting location, so unprofessional. When I was able to get myself free, thanks to an outside election worker who was trying to use the room, thankfully, I went back to Election Central. I did respond at lunchtime with our HR representative, Elizabeth. Was sending an email to her and everything, and I had Herndon bullying me at my desk, demanding a copy of the email. And he said Nicole wanted a copy of it. This was done. I gave a 4-hour statement on this floor, 2 doors down. That shouldn't have happened that day. More important things could have happened, like Monroe County getting money, getting that grant. But there was so much focusing going on, bullying Cheryl, who is a part-time employee, $15 an hour, for absolutely no reason. And all of those people were present, and I still have yet to get answers for that.
Cheryl, at the risk of I don't want you to interpret this the wrong way, but your time's up.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to bring attention that we lost out on an opportunity, and I should still be in a job, still be doing something that was good service to Monroe County and not wasting money and time. And this is, again, wasting money and time because no one listened to me. I appreciate your time, and I will be giving this to you. So I thank you. And by the way, I was a Girl Scout. and I followed my oath.
Great. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, we are adjourned.